Yes, welcome to Dadpuzzles. Today we're very happy to have my good friend here, Kirk. He's a dental business, guru. Folks have seen him, and they get some great advice about how to do well in their business. And I think I would like to invite you, sir, to share with to share with us about yourself, my friend. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Dr. Sully, thank you for having me on. I
Thank
really
you. Thank you.
appreciate it.
Awesome. It's an honor to
Um,
have you, sir.
yeah. So yeah, my wife and my wife is a dentist.
Hmm.
So 4.5 years ago when we bought a practice, she was like, "Will you help me?" And so as a loving husband, I was like, "Sure." I've had businesses before. I knew a little bit about business in general, but nothing about the dental field. So I was like, "Okay, well, let's do this. Let's figure it out together." And we created a really cool business where we only work 3 days a week and have a seven-figure practice,
Nice.
um, which is more than what the average dentist does on four
Right.
to 5 days a week.
Okay.
So now I try to help doctors
Hmm.
create that lifestyle practice where they have the balance of having a good income and a good practice that they can generate income and have a great team. But also have the time to spend with their family. Because it doesn't matter if you have this amazing business, you're making a ton of money
Right.
if you don't have the people who support you and love you at the end of it.
That is true.
Um, so, so that's what I do. I go in and I streamline their business to create whatever lifestyle they want. Because some people want to work 3 days a week, some people want to work 5 days a week. But how can they leave when they want to leave?
Right.
So I do that for them. But yeah,
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. So let's go back. So how, before all that start, did you start that when you have kids already or no kids? What
yeah.
happened, my friend?
Yeah, so early on, so my background's in music. So
Okay.
I was a music producer for a long time. I was in bands and toured and did different things.
Okay.
And when my wife got out of dental school, she was like, "Look, if we're gonna have kids, then you can't be on the road anymore." So I
Right.
told my band, "Hey, I'm not gonna be touring anymore. I'm better managing you guys and kind of go from there."
Okay.
And then we ended up having our first child 10 days before my wife graduated dental school, and
Okay.
then she graduated. Um,
Congratulations. Yes.
yeah, it was
Hmm.
awesome.
Hmm.
It was awesome. And that was almost 7 years ago.
Okay.
So now we have four kids, and 4.5 years ago, we had two when we started the practice.
Okay.
So learning how to run a business, be able to watch the kids. 6 months after we bought the practice, COVID happened, so we shut down for 2 months,
Right.
and having to deal with the stress of that, plus also try to figure out, what are we going to do with our kids during this craziness.
Right.
We balanced that, but it was a blessing during that time because we got to figure out, okay, we really like spending time with our kids at home, so we have this business, we have our kids, how can we balance this? And, as business owners, you really know a lot of the times what you need to do,
Hmm.
but you don't make the time to do it and to create the systems to figure it out. So during those 2 months, we really sat down hard to figure out what do we want
Hmm.
and how are we going to do it?
Okay.
Um, which is how we ended up doing what we do now, where we work 3 days a week and, are able to spend time with our kids.
Okay. Um, so this is very nice. And right now, really your goals are aligned with our goals, which is to empower dads to, and parents in general, mom and dad, to have more time, not away from, from the family, just, being there for them, and like whether it's schooling or like after school with like with their homework, etc., just to bond, have that
Yeah.
time with the family. That's really beautiful. But so in that short time, let's say you do pick up a practice, and let's say, can you run us, just a little summary how that goes, what involves, because you got to cut down some of the, a lot of things to be able to manage that, correct?
Yeah. Yeah. So I had to pull back from music. and our hours are set to where we can drop the kids off for school and
Hmm.
we can pick them up afterward.
Right.
But yeah, it creates sacrifice, right? So
Right.
something that, and a lot of people think that you have to sacrifice family time to do that, but
Hmm.
I don't subscribe to that.
Right.
I take the Kobe Bryant mentality of I wait till everybody goes to sleep and then
Hmm.
I get my work done.
Oh, there you
So,
go.
I will never take a client meeting or be at
Hmm.
the office between the hours of 5 p.m. and 8:30 p.m. because that's our
Hmm.
family time. That's when we eat dinner. That's when we have Bible study. That's when we do different things, homework with the kids.
Right.
And as soon as they get down, then I get to work.
That's right.
And, I may work until 1 or 2 in the morning,
Hmm.
but, I am not wasting my family time to sacrifice the time that I have with them while they're in the house.
That is amazing, and this is beautiful. You should keep up with that. I think I heard speaking about the same gentleman, rest in peace. He was talking about how he goes to the gym in the morning at 2 a.m. with his daughter.
Yeah.
Like he was involving his kids through
Yeah.
his career as well, so that they can get learn to appreciate you know the work ethic and everything else.
Right. Right. Yeah. And it's so important, right? You have to lead your kids. You can't just,
Hmm.
you know, hide in the shadows when they don't see.
Hmm.
Sometimes you do, but for the most part, like they need to see the
Hmm.
sacrifice that you're making. And that
Okay.
means, getting up at 4 in the morning and then waking them up instead of them waking you up. I think that's
Okay.
super powerful, right? Um,
Absolutely.
Same thing with, my kids know that when I put them down for bed, then I go to my office and I start working. They know that.
Hmm.
Um,
Right.
and they see that work ethic and they see, the sacrifice it takes to create the lifestyle that we have.
That's awesome. And let's say, what are the core values that you do have with your family so far? As the guiding principles, in your family, in your parenting structure with your wife.
Sure. So I do something pretty interesting where, you know, I want them because the world is a uncomfortable place.
Right.
And it tends to be cruel and it tends to throw curveballs at you all the
Hmm.
time. And
Right.
so you have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yes.
Otherwise, you will really break down and have a
Hmm.
hard time in life. So, what I do is every single shower that they take,
Hmm.
at the end of it, there's 30 seconds where we turn it on to cold, completely cold.
Oh man, how old are they
And
first?
yeah,
Sorry to
they're
interrupt.
six.
Uh-huh.
6 and 5 are my
Okay.
two oldest,
Okay.
and then I
Okay.
have a 2-year-old and a newborn, but they're
Awesome.
boys. So the six
Congratulations.
and 5-year-old boy,
Hmm.
yeah. So 6, 5, and 2 are boys, and the
Hmm.
newborn is a girl. We finally had our girl.
There you go. Congrats.
Yeah, thanks.
Hmm.
But still,
Hmm.
the 6 and 5-year-old, we turn on the cold, completely cold, and I let you can tell as soon as it starts hitting,
Hmm.
and I'm like, okay, count
Right.
to 30.
Hmm.
And they start counting and they start counting faster. I'm like, no, slow down, 30 seconds. And
Right.
at first,
Right.
they hated it. They cried. They were like, why are we doing this? This is terrible.
Hmm.
But now, when my wife or I come in, I'm like, hey, you need to get out of the shower. They're like, no, I haven't done the cold yet.
Oh man, they ask you for it. Yes.
Yes, they
Uh-huh.
ask for it
Hmm.
because they come to expect it and they increase their threshold of comfortable.
Right.
So now they come to expect it, and it's a small thing,
Hmm.
but what I'm doing is I'm getting them comfortable with being uncomfortable. And if you ask them, they'll tell you that. I'm
Hmm.
like, why? And I asked my son, my oldest, last night, like, why do we, in front of his friends, why do we take cold showers?
Hmm.
And he was like, to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. They know
Beautiful.
that.
Yes, sir.
So that's a huge core value that I try to instill because it's not a comfortable life.
Hmm.
You have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, and it is comfortable,
Right.
right?
Right. Right. Absolutely.
Another one that we do is, making sure that they understand that they are not rich.
Hmm. Right.
So, mommy and daddy have some money,
Right.
but regardless, money's relative, whether you're
Hmm.
rich or poor or wealthy
Right.
or not.
Hmm.
Poor is a mindset.
Right.
Broke is what you are.
Hmm.
So we try to instill these financial things. Like, even though my wife's a dentist and we have an office and we make a good living,
Hmm.
we try to instill in them that they have to work hard. So, every time they help us around the house, like they help me with the landscaping in the front, getting
Hmm.
the mulch out, trimming the bushes, I give them $3.
Hmm.
And what I do with that is I make them give one to God.
Hmm.
They have to save one, and they
Right.
have one for spending, and they have this little jar that has three different spots.
Amazing.
And so, they worked really hard,
Hmm.
and they both wanted to go in and go to Target, and they wanted to get a Beyblade set.
Okay.
And they're like, I don't have enough. I'm like, okay, well, how much do you have? One of
Hmm.
them was like, I have $30.
Hmm.
Like, okay, well, you don't have enough. It's $60. And he was like, okay, hey. And he went to his brother. He was like, hey, if we go in together, we can get this because we both have $30. And they both agreed, and they
Okay.
both went in, and we went to Target, and I had them give the cashier the check, or the cash.
Right.
And they play with that Beyblade set more than anything else, because now they understand the value of hard work,
Right.
that they have to work for something
Right.
in order to spend it, and coming together to get that. They value it more.
That's
Not
amazing.
just me buying it for them. They break those things and they throw them away because it's not something that they had to work for.
Right.
So that's another huge core value that we
That-
really promote.
oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. Do you have any, like specific challenges that you've come, that you've encountered with with your wife while raising them, that you are able to fix it, afterwards, successfully?
Sure. So I think one thing, as fathers, right, we
Right.
tend to have well, at least me, and a
Mm-hmm.
lot of fathers, but not
Right.
everyone,
Mm-hmm.
um, has a hard time with patience. Um, Especially
Right.
when you come home from work, you're
So much
tired,
going on. Yes.
yeah, you're
Mm.
mentally spent,
Right.
and you get home, and now they're just amped up. And you're like, oh, how am I going to just really squeeze out the extra 5% of energy that I have left
Right.
to do this? And
Mm-hmm.
early on, you don't do well with that. You have to learn and grow, and you lose your temper more. And my trigger is the screaming. Like, when they're
Right.
just screaming and running around, and I'm just
Right.
like, ah.
Right. 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 Right.
But I've had to learn and really focus and be intentional on, like, their kids.
Mm-hmm.
This is a short period of time.
Right.
My wife will be like, hey, listen to them, make sure that you're lowering your volume. I don't
Mm-hmm.
yell, but still,
Right.
like, lowering my volume, being more intentional with my tone.
Mm-hmm.
um and early on, obviously, I did not do that well. Now,
Mm-hmm.
when I do need to talk with my kids, if they are screaming or whatnot, I get on their level. I get eye to eye, and
Nice.
I almost whisper, right? So I
Right.
don't necessarily raise my voice, but I whisper,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, hey, can
Mm-hmm.
you hear me? Yes. Okay, can I tell you a secret? Yes. Hey, it's really loud right now. Do you mind just getting a little bit softer? And most of the time they're like, yeah, you know, and then they
Right.
go about screaming again. But still, at least
Yes.
at that point, I have not lost my cool.
Right. Right.
And once again, what you focus on grows. So if I focus on that, I'm intentional about that,
Mm-hmm.
I'm able to level up, in a sense, to be a
Absolutely.
better father for my kids.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, another thing that I really try to do, that a lot of fathers have a hard time with, is saying you're sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Yes.
So the other day, I got on to my oldest, and I wasn't the kindest, the way I went about it and
Mm-hmm.
whatnot. Um, and he has some things he needs to work on. I have some things I need to work on. And so when
Right.
that happens, I go to him one to one. Once again, I get on his level,
Mm-hmm.
and I just apologize. I'm like, look, I am sorry. I'm sorry
Mm-hmm.
for how I acted,
Mm-hmm.
and I appreciate you for telling me how I'm acting,
Right.
because they're a mirror.
Right.
They're a sponge.
Right.
They soak everything in, and so they know what's going on, right? And they reflect what you do.
Right.
So typically, if your kids are acting out, they're either lacking attention
Hmm.
or they're mimicking what they've already seen in you. So it's really a mirror.
Absolutely.
Uh, but to be able to apologize to your kids,
It's a
I feel
plus.
like
Yeah.
is man, it's so powerful to allow them to see that you're trying, not just hold your pride and like I have nothing that I do that's wrong.
Hmm.
It's my way or the highway. But like, look, man, you can grow, you
Right.
can get better, you can approach things better and more kindly. Um, and that leadership, that servant leadership of like,
Hmm.
look, I'm gonna do better, and this is how you can do better.
Hmm.
Let's do better together.
Absolutely.
Like if you do this, I can do this. And man, it's been a game changer in how we approach things.
Absolutely. I definitely I can attest to that because our daughter is, actually all my kids, they're very vocal. They correct us so well. Like if we do something wrong, of course, but
Sure.
based on us correcting them. So I think, like you said,
Right.
being a mirror, and sometimes the bad things that they pick up from school, we catch them, because
Yeah.
not necessarily from us, they also learn from like other kids and whatever. So I'm happy about this. This is a good approach, and I know some people might think like, oh, this is a weakness or something based on
Mm.
their like cultural and stuff. No, there is a cultures people will think like this back in the days that
Oh yeah.
like me growing up, we always see dad is always right, but thankfully he was, he was not available as much, and when he was available, he would he was not as silly or do some, he was really gentleman, so there was nothing bad to that. But
Sure.
if you do have a bad example and this culture is there, of where they think that is all is right, I think we have a disaster, like down the road, you know.
Yeah, because unfortunately,
Hmm.
if your kids do see you as perfect,
Hmm.
when their hero does fall and make a big mistake later on, when they can understand what's going on,
Right.
then yeah, it's incredibly difficult for them to wrap their mind around it, and
Absolutely.
it's a detriment to them as
Hmm.
well.
Hmm.
But my kids know I'm not perfect,
Hmm.
and I make sure that they understand that everyone is a work in progress.
Absolutely.
Um, and really approaching that with empathy and
Nice.
looking in their shoes.
That's amazing. That's amazing, my friend. So what are some of the favorite activities you do with your kids?
Oh, I love mountain biking.
Okay.
So even this last week, it's starting to get warmer.
Right.
So one kid got on an electric dirt bike that we got him for Christmas,
Okay.
and then the other one was on a mountain bike, and we just hit the trails.
There you go.
And uh, it's something that, like I said, I love doing, but I love that they're interested in it too because I want to do it, right?
Right.
And it's active. It's not something where we're just playing video games. Like I play video games too,
Right.
but
Right. Hmm.
but I try to get them active as much as possible. And so we were on the trails
Hmm.
and doing dangerous things safely.
Okay.
So they were going down off ramps and doing different
Hmm.
things very very carefully.
Hmm.
One fell, and that was okay. Like he was like, okay, yeah, I'm okay. I can do it again. Let's try it again.
Hmm.
Going down big hills and really getting up speed. But man, taking them back where I do a lot of my riding,
Hmm.
they got to see that, and they
Okay.
felt like, man, I'm on a big man trail. I get to do what Daddy does,
Right.
right?
Right. Okay.
Uh, making sure that we do outdoor activities is
Hmm.
is something we do all the time on the weekends.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. So, so in supporting, you and your wife, like personal and and professional goals, how do you, let's say, you get interrupted, you're spending time with family, and then you have a call from work. How do you normally handle those distractions? Because they will be coming through, if you're working 3 days a week.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, for the most part, you set boundaries, right?
Right.
So, if very rarely does our
Hmm.
team ever call us outside of work,
Okay.
because there's really no need. So
Okay.
you set that up to where like, okay, look, but being a dentist, like patients do call on the weekends sometimes for an
Hmm.
emergency,
Hmm.
but you don't have to answer.
Hmm.
They
Yeah.
can
Okay.
leave a voicemail.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you are available, you can call them back in a timely manner and address the issue that's at hand.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's just like if your mom calls you,
Right.
as an adult, right? It's like
Right.
you don't have to answer. If you're in the middle of dinner, they can
Mm-hmm.
wait. If it's an
Mm.
emergency, they'll call you right back.
Right.
They'll just keep calling you. Like, okay, this is an emergency. I need to
Mm-hmm.
take this. But
Right.
at
Right.
the end of
Right.
the day, you have to set parameters. It's like we have a no phone policy while we're at the dinner table. And we ate dinner together at the dinner table every night. We don't sit in front of the TV
Right.
and do things like we sit at the dinner table. We have a
Mm-hmm.
no phone policy. We have it
Right.
away, so that way
Right.
we can focus and we're not distracted.
That's
You
amazing.
just you have to do that
Right.
because your kids want you. They don't want you on your phone.
Right, absolutely. And also like to add to that, we will have the same thing. And also, you know how sometimes they will eat and they're running around and stuff like that. Like anytime they eat, they know they have to be sitting at it. You know, those are
Yeah,
silly, but I think it prepares them to become more disciplined down the road, correct?
yeah, definitely, definitely.
Mm.
You have to set the stability and parameters of their lives.
Mm-hmm.
You're the leader of the family.
Right.
So when you allow them to do
Mm-hmm.
something that is contrary to really like what is going to reciprocate later on,
Mm-hmm.
then they're going to create bad habits.
Right.
And it's just like leading a team. So like we have to lead our team at the office,
Right.
but our team will do what we allow.
Right.
Okay. So if we
Mm-hmm.
allow gossip, then they'll
Mm-hmm.
gossip. If we allow negativity, then they'll be negative
Right.
sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
If we allow bad behavior, then they will take advantage of that and have bad behavior. But same thing with our kids. We have to lead our kids and we have to create parameters
Right.
and only allow what we allow. Okay. So if we allow them to whine to get their way, then they're going to whine every time
Right.
it's contrary to what they believe. But, you know, you don't just say, well, because I said so, right?
Mm. Right.
When they're asking why, they want to know why. And if you
You have to
give
give
them
them.
a good reason why, like,
That's
sure,
it.
there are some times where, like,
Mm.
you have to say, just do it,
Mm-hmm.
but then explain why. Because they don't
Absolutely.
know. They don't have the knowledge that you do,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they're learning those things. So
Right.
anytime that and I get in that habit of like, well, you need to do it because I said so.
Mm.
But really they just want to know why. They're curious. They don't understand.
Right.
Why are you telling me to do this? And why is it different than what I believe? Well, it's because it's like it's what's best for you. And I ask my kids that, right? Be curious, ask questions
Right.
because the person controlling the conversation is asking questions. Ask questions of your kids. Don't just tell them a blanket statement and
Right.
expect them to trust it and believe it.
Mm-hmm.
But I ask them, look, do I do what's best for you? Do I make decisions as to what's best for you? Or I ask the question, when I tell you to do something, will it hurt you?
Mm-hmm.
Like is that what I tell you to do? Is that like are the things that I ask you to do something that
Mm-hmm.
will hurt you? No. Like, okay, well, do you trust that I'm going to make the right decision for you? Yeah. Okay. So if you do this that I'm asking you to do, is it
That's
something
amazing.
that's probably what's best for you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. And now obviously different ages are different, but at my
Right.
kid's age right now at 6 and 5, like that's something that I've had to learn
Right.
and kind of direct their path and give them a reason why.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I'm doing it to make sure that you are a better person. I'm doing this because, and I'm asking you to do this because it's something that you need to learn. And it's something I've already learned. And I had to do the exact same thing when I was your age.
Man, this is amazing. And with me actually, my oldest is really old. Is that there is like in the like in the 20s now, 21. And then I have a 5 and a 4, girl and a boy, and then a girl, and then so 5 and 4 they'll always you know always ask you questions, which is beautiful, and they will catch you when you're messing up something. And like you said, the apology is always there, and they appreciate that. They always appreciate it, and they compete actually to become your best friend. They compete to show who who understands something better. I love that competition, the understanding. It's something that is almost foreign. You don't see as many
Yeah.
families doing these things anymore. So
Yeah.
I commend you. Like I'm very proud of what you're doing, my friend. Keep that going. And how is the communication? I noticed from talking to you, there's a good communication between you and the wife. So that's always, to me, I think is a basis because we we correct each other behind the scenes, so that we can
Sure.
be better, and like I think this is something that people needs, as dads, they need to have this and not being offended when they're being told the truth,
Yeah.
because sometimes it can be really hurtful. It can be like, let's say, I think today you're really, like you're very distant today, or you're not spending, like you're not showing more, love to one child like versus the other. Those kind of talks, they can hurt you, but don't take it personal, right? Like the goal is to have
Yeah.
the family, correct?
Yeah, yeah, it is, right? And this is something that me and my wife have worked really hard on, and we have to do it with the team at work too, right?
Hmm.
So being willing to have difficult conversations
Absolutely.
and being receptive of difficult conversations,
Hmm.
like you were saying,
Right.
right? So the ability to be able to, like the other night, my wife said, "I don't want you to get defensive."
Hmm.
That's how she started the conversation. Well, naturally,
Right.
you're going to get defensive, right? And she was like, "Look, this is what I'm seeing. This is the pattern.
Hmm.
I just want you to be aware of that." And of course, I was upset, but at the end of it, after just cooling down a little bit, I thought about it like she was like we're saying, and yeah, I'm like, I appreciate you being willing to tell me that.
Hmm.
I love you. And I will take that and I will think about it. And I just want you to know, like, I appreciate you for doing that.
That's amazing.
Uh, so if you, yeah, I mean, if you hang on too much to your ego and to pride, man, there's a reason why pride comes before the fall.
Right.
And it's not only with your kids, it's also with your spouse.
Absolutely.
But I attest the success to our 11 years of marriage
Hmm.
to the ability to have good, difficult conversations, right? And to be approachable with each other.
Hmm.
Because that's one thing that a lot of kids have a hard time with is they don't feel like maybe their dad is approachable
Hmm.
because they're worried that he's going to fly off the handle. Like, and they're worried that his pride and his ego, like if you, right, I don't, we talk about this, right? And I don't believe it's right
Hmm.
for your kids necessarily to correct you,
Hmm.
right?
Right.
But I do believe that there is a place and a setting for them to at least tell you, right?
Hmm.
Or at least have your wife tell you that, hey, I'm seeing this and
Hmm.
this is a dangerous road we're going down.
Hmm.
And for the kids to be like, hey, I don't like how you do this. Just ask your kids like, hey, is there something that I do that scares you?
Hmm.
Or is there something that I do? Like, be open to constructive criticism.
Absolutely.
If my kids are like, it's like, why are you being so mean? I'm like,
Hmm.
buddy, I'm not being mean.
Hmm.
It's just not what you're enjoying right now.
Right.
It's like, I get it. Like, there's a difference between being mean
Hmm.
and being your father and disciplining.
Right.
It's like, I'm not beating you to a pulp right now. I gave you a spanking
Hmm.
because you were wrong
Hmm.
and you did something you knew was wrong. And I told you, I always give them one warning.
Hmm.
Like, look, if you do that again, you're going to get a spanking.
You mean
And they
timeout,
know
right?
that. And
You mean timeout, correct?
right. Yeah. No, I don't.
the
I mean a
the
spanking.
actual spanking. Okay.
Yes. No, I do not mean timeout.
Okay. Yes.
So I mean discipline.
Hmm. That's right.
And when I go through this, like they understand from a very early
Right.
age, like I mean what I say
Right.
and I'm going to do it.
You don't play with Baba or Mama.
No,
Like they tell you something and
right.
it's making sense. You have to listen.
Yeah. And it's like, look, if you do it again, I'm going to give you a spanking.
Hmm.
And if they do it again, you have to keep to your word.
Right.
You can't start counting down five, 4, 4.5, 3. Like,
They'll think it's a
you can't
game.
just
Yeah.
do right.
Mm.
They will wait until the last possible second to either change or manipulate you
Hmm.
because they don't believe and trust that you're actually going to do that.
Right. Right.
You have to stay true to your word. And my kids know
Hmm.
I'm going to give them a warning.
Hmm.
And if they do it again, I'm going to do something.
Right. Because I think, here we have the problem, not the problem. The thing is, for instance, I totally agree with you. Sometimes, you know, they know the consequence. If they don't sleep, they're gonna wake up. Like they don't sleep early. They're gonna wake up with a bad mood
Right.
because they did not sleep enough. Then they can be, like crying for no reasons, because their mood is
Sure.
all, like messed up. So I would be like, warning them, you see, you're like this because you did not sleep enough, like I asked you to do it. So that's why like I'm asking you, stop crying. You have no reason to cry or do this and that, like XYZ. Like 4 and 5, that's the age that they can be,
That's right.
yeah. So sometimes, when you're like dealing with them in those moments, even if you're not, doing anything severe, they can act as if they're in a bad situation. So I totally understand how that can be. But also, you have them when they go to school, they're told, if your parents touch you, that kind of stuff. You have some schooling. That's why I believe it's better to have, if you're able to afford, send your kids to like private schools, schools that they teach them more than the general stuff, because this general stuff actually,
Yeah.
I think they're doing a poor job, and I don't want to go deeper into it. This is another discussion. But if you can
Right.
afford to really take your kids to where they can get a better education and less of this interference with the parenting, because this is, as long as
Yeah.
somebody's not doing something horrible to their child, I think we have we should, like in my, like I remember growing up, like we don't touch, like kids' faces, but
Yeah.
your butt is gonna get something to it. You know what I mean? Like back in the days,
Yes.
I mean, but
Yeah.
of course, not, you have to be as a parent, of course, you with your anger intact, not, not to be
Yes. Yeah.
like,
No, don't discipline out of anger.
no, no, no,
You
exactly,
discipline out of love.
exactly.
And
That's
and it's, like trying to wait,
mhm.
to calm down,
Right,
not in the moment when you are heated,
right.
but to try to calm down. And I ask my kids, I'm like, look, and this is one way that I'm able to calm down
Hmm.
instead of just grab and just go.
Right, because that's really
um,
bad, my friend, because you can put
right,
yourself in a bad situation where I can see
right.
where those parents that are doing that in that situation is okay for the kid to call someone, because sometimes we're bigger than them, and the ratio of,
Yeah.
no, no, it's not the same. Yeah.
Right. But in sitting down with them
Right.
and asking them the simple question, do you understand why this is happening?
Right.
Do you understand? So like that way you're also very clear on why you're giving them the spanking, right?
Right.
So and or discipline. It's and so that way they understand. Like
Mhm.
it's not just like, oh, and a lot of times my kids will be like, I don't know why.
Mhm.
Like, okay, well, here's the reason why. I told you that if you did this again, I would spank you.
And I think this is good because we go to where this timeout works. Like normally, you will take them. Let's say you stay in this particular place. You're not moving for the next
Sure.
5 minutes,
Yeah.
whatever. So they're crying. Wait. You do not tell them why at that moment. Let them cry out or whatever, but stay on
Yeah.
that timeout. When they're done, they're all calm. Then we discuss, as you mentioned. And
Sure.
if they did not understand why, then I have a right to okay, so I'm sorry I gave you time out. I thought you understand this. So if you did not understand, then I apologize for this. But in the future, XYZ. So now we're on the same page going forward. And
Yeah.
and Mike is actually, believe me, they're afraid of timeout more than anything else. You know,
Yeah.
we used to like threaten them with, there's no shopping, or there's no this, or there's no that.
Oh man.
This stuff
Threatening's
nowadays, no, no,
terrible.
no. Timeout is the best.
Yeah. Yeah. And in whatever way you decide to discipline your kids, like obviously everybody has a different opinion on whether spanking's right or not.
Right, absolutely.
But still, like you have to keep to your word.
Right.
I feel like that's the number one thing is most parents will threaten, but they don't keep to their word.
Right.
And it's not about threatening, it's about a consequence. It's about your child understanding that there's a consequence to the decisions that you're making, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're not being bad, you're making a bad decision. My kids are good
Right.
kids, but they make bad
Mm-hmm.
decisions. And I tell them that. Anytime that I discipline them, I hug them, I say, I love you. I don't like doing
Mm-hmm.
this, but I hug them, I love them, and I'm doing this because I love them.
Right.
And then I explain to them, like, hey, was that a good decision? And they know it wasn't a good decision. So I get them to reflect, like, okay, that was not a good decision.
Mm-hmm.
And I ask them this simple question after every single time because I need them to understand and to reflect. But I ask them, what can you do better or what can you do different next time? So that way they can understand, like, okay, yes, I need to do something different
Mm-hmm.
and go from there.
My friend, we can go on and on and on about so many topics about like parenthood, and I really appreciate you taking the time to like do this with us. But can you maybe do you want to share anything that like about your business, and also how can folks reach you, and also if there's any other lesson that you need to share with that with folks that in the dental
Sure.
business. Yes, my friend.
Yeah. I mean, I would just say you don't have to work more to make more. And, you need to figure out your priorities.
Mm-hmm.
And if your family's your priority, which I'm a little biased, but it should,
Right.
your family should be your priority,
Mm-hmm.
then you can figure out a way to work less and still make more. Because we did.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you just have to be creative. You have to think outside the box and develop as a leader,
Right.
and create something that allows you to do the things you want to do.
Well, that's
You
some.
don't have to work a job if you don't want to. But I mean, yeah, like you said, like we could do this all day. I could talk about my kids and my family and the things we
Oh
do.
man, we can
But
talk. For instance, how like okay, so now for instance, you can talk about how how's the relationship with your wife, for instance, because sometimes
yeah,
a person that is doing those 5 7 days or whatever is
sure.
not going to have the same love life as a person that is working only for 3 days out of the week.
Yeah, yeah, and you know, when my wife was on maternity leave, yeah, I mean, like I was going to the office, she was at home,
Mm-hmm.
and we weren't riding together and talking anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So the only time we could talk was at night when we were both exhausted, about to lay down for bed, and it's just not the same.
Right.
So the ability to be able to create quality time with your family, it doesn't have to be all the time, but quality time,
Right.
is super important. And I'll leave you with
Yes,
this.
sir.
So especially with kids, you have to make sure that you and your spouse back each other up no matter what.
That's
You
it.
have to do that. So if I say something, my wife will back me up. So that way the kids don't manipulate you and go to the other spouse. You can't do that. Okay. If and my wife will ask, like, did you ask your dad? And they'll be like, yeah. Or even if it's no, she will check with me before she says anything. And the same with me. If she says something, then, I'll back her up. And we trust each other to make those decisions. So if you don't trust your spouse, in what they say and how they go about things, unless it's just blatantly wrong,
Mm-hmm.
we back each other up. Um, and we make sure that it's the same across the board,
Mm-hmm.
even if we may not agree completely,
Mm-hmm.
um, to make sure that our kids know that we are going to be on the same page, period.
That is amazing. This is amazing, and for sure, dad should take this and like families, because I have seen this is the source, one of the biggest source of broken marriages, because there's no is not on the same page, my friend. And even
Yeah.
if you despise, I don't know, this you cannot despise your spouse. Like I guess for people to reach to that level, they need a remedy for sure. They need to speak to somebody. So I agree with
Yeah.
you. They need to agree to be on the same page, and afterwards they can always talk in the back. and fix it up, and then they can say, oh yeah, by the way, we look it up, like studies show blah 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 blah. So, you
Sure.
know, you can always, but we are on the same page. That's
Yeah.
amazing, my friend. So how
Yeah.
can folks, reach you, my friend?
Yeah, so I'm always on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
If you go to Instagram at Kirk Teach Out, I'm sure you'll have them in the show
Yes,
notes.
sir.
That's the easiest way to get a hold of me.
Okay.
Uh, just to get on there, follow
Mm-hmm.
me, and message me. I message every single person that follows me, so that'd
Fantastic.
be the easiest way.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for really doing this. So first, go ahead and log in on dadpuzzles.com and follow us on any social media of your choice, from Instagram, YouTube, etc. Thanks again. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Sully.